It's Jordan Mulligan from the Mulligan Brothers, and today's video is about hacking the mind and how we can use the mind to benefit ourselves in every endeavor in life. These are some of the leading neuroscientists, some of the leading people in the brain space, and for me, these are the people and tips and lessons that we should be learning to compile together to give you an overview of how you can use your brain to 100% of its capability. Today's video is sponsored by audible.com, where if you follow the link down below, you can get a free copy of these people's books linked down below with that link. So thank you to audible.com for sponsoring this. It is also sponsored by mulliganbrothers.com, where you can buy the Inspire Change t-shirts, the hardest work in the room t-shirts. But before that, let's find out how we can use 100% of our capability of our mind and our brain.
So just starting off the day, if you're able to just steal away for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes, if you can push it for 10 minutes, and just focus on your breathing when you wake up, it can make a very big difference to your day. I do a practice as part of something called Sudarshan Kriya, which is an inhale to 4, a hold to 4, an exhale to 6, a hold for 2. So inhale to 4, hold 4, exhale 6, hold 2. I find that that's very calming. You can do box breathing, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. You just breathe into a box. You can find all this stuff on YouTube, right? The instructions are easy, but it doesn't need to be complicated for it to work. And that's what people are developing, these very elaborate breathing techniques. And okay, that works for you, but the simple stuff can be just as effective as the most complicated stuff. It just depends on how you do it. So if you're able to do that in the morning, that's great, but it's very important when you sit down and work, you open up your monitors and you're, oh man, what am I going to do today? You're stressed. So don't let that stress take over your body and your mind. Control your breathing. You control your breathing. You control your stress. So that's the anchor here. You can try different apps for that, different apps with different timers, to just have a rhythm to your breath. Same inhale, same exhale is a good way of staying balanced, alert, and relaxed at the same time. When you fix your breathing and you focus on your breathing and you adopt healthier breathing habits, it's going to fix you. It's going to help you across the board. It may not fix every single one of your problems. Of course it doesn't, but it can only help you. And that's what's interesting about breathing is there's no side effects. Sometimes when you take a drug, a pharmaceutical drug or whatever, it's like, yeah, it can help you in some ways, but there's all these other side effects. Fixing your breathing and increasing your healthy breathing only has benefits. So whether or not you're a corporate warrior or a weekend athlete or professional athlete, everybody sees gains. Everybody, even asthmatics, for people with autoimmune issues. So what I tried to focus on in the book, because there's so many different breathing dysfunctions, right? And there's so many different breathing therapies, so many different exercises. There's a foundation that everybody can benefit from. And that's some of the stuff that we talked about. Breathe through your nose as often as you can. Don't worry about it if you're breathing through your mouth at some short amounts of time. Exhale fully. A lot of people pack in air. Breathe slowly, breathe less. So if you just do these things, you're going to see benefits. And if you don't believe me, mark what happens with your heart rate variability, mark what happens with your blood pressure, mark what happens with your sleep quality, and you're going to see. So we'll break this down to 2. I think you want some more specifics on the business go-getters and the athletes, but just starting with the athletes, think about how athletes get most of their energy. You'd say, oh, through their food. No, we get most of our energy through our breath. And if we are not breathing in a way that is efficient, if our inhalations and exhalations aren't closely coordinated, we're never really going to be able to hit that state of peak performance, because we're going to be working a little too hard to get our breath. Athletes can breathe something like 100 times an hour respiratory rate, 150 times, like an insane amount of breath that they're using, an insane amount of oxygen. You want to get that oxygen in the most efficient way. That's what performance is, right? Working at peak efficiency. And so when you train your breathing in line with your metabolic needs, your heart rate tends to go down, your blood pressure can go down. And so you're able to function at the same rate as you were before, but you have more energy because your heart rate is lower, even though you're performing at the same state. So again, this stuff isn't controversial. This is the basis of athletic performance, is efficiency. But everyone's been focusing on drink this goo, eat this tablet, go to sleep at this time. But people aren't focusing on their breath, which is crazy. That's starting to change in a huge way. If you look at the work of Patrick McEwen or Brian McKenzie or Laird Hamilton, the very first thing they have their athletes do is to fix their breathing. And I've talked to these guys numerous times. They say 99% of them are breathing in a dysfunctional way. They push through the pain, right? They have the endurance to push through it. That doesn't mean they're healthy. And that doesn't mean they're reaching their peak levels. So there's a bunch of ways that athletes can do that. It starts with, guess what? Nasal breathing. And nasal breathing as often as you can. If you're a weightlifter, right, you can breathe through your mouth when you're doing that final whoosh, no problem. But when you're training, you want to learn how to be breathing through your nose. I mean, we've had the science for 4-5 decades now. And for some reason, it hasn't seeped in to a lot of athletic training, but that is changing in a huge way because now people have wearables. They can watch what happens with their heart rates, with their heart rate variability, with their sleep quality and their recovery. And from what I've seen, it is huge. And once people adopt these healthy breathing habits, once athletes do, they will never, ever go back, to a less efficient way of getting most of their energy.
There's a fundamental dilemma that people face that I think self-worth theory helps to unpack and unravel, so to speak. So I would argue, or self-worth theory argues, that this dilemma is, if we're going to demonstrate our worth, if we're going to achieve something of significance, and again, this is an important fundamental human need. Most people have a desire to achieve for themselves and be perceived as accomplished, right? Fundamental human need. But to do that means I need to undertake tasks, activities, do things that are challenging. They're hard, right? So, because if I do things that are easy, if I go down the street and I play basketball with the local 7-year-olds and I dunk on them all day, I don't get to say I'm the greatest basketball player ever. That's too easy of a task. That doesn't really demonstrate my athletic ability. So I must take on a hard task to demonstrate that I have high ability, right? If I do easy tasks, that does not demonstrate that I have high ability, that I've achieved. However, as soon as I undertake a hard task, what have I introduced to this equation? I could fail. So the dilemma is I have to navigate these two things. And then if I really care about something, if I fail in an area that I really care about, then the attribution, the implication to myself is greater, right? Because this is the thing I really care about. It's not like I got up on the karaoke and I sounded awful. Well, so I don't care. I'm not attached to that. Or I made a terrible mess of that spaghetti that I made. I'm not a chef, whatever, I don't care. But when my identity is wrapped up in it, then what's on the line is not only my performance, but my self-concept and how other people perceive me. So some people really get this example. So let me give it to you. So when I was in school, I would get really tense writing these papers, right? And I would kind of get stuck and I couldn't move. And even if I was writing, I was feeling a lot of anxiety. My heart's beating fast and a lot of physical tension. And if you think about it, that's completely disproportionate to even if I care a lot about grades, which I did, but 10% of my grade for that paper, my reaction is completely out of proportion, completely outsized, right? My physical, my emotional reaction. Why? Because that's not the only thing that's on the line. It's not just the 10%. That's a reaction to am I going to be perceived? If I get a bad grade, what does that mean about me? I've always been told I was a good writer. What happens if I don't attain that? So what's going on is you have these two levels. It's the act and the consequences of that act, the evaluation, and then the meaning of that assessment, that appraisal by somebody else, and my self-appraisal. And if I don't meet my own standards, for instance, or I don't meet the objective standards, then I experience that as failure. And failure due to specifically to my inability. That evokes shame. So if I'm not capable of doing something, if I'm not able, I don't have the skill, intelligence, strength, we often feel shame. And that's really a powerful motivation that shuts us down emotionally, cognitively. So what procrastination is actually, one way to put it is that procrastination is a way to turn possible shame into probable guilt.
Another twist on procrastination that I've been looking into off and on, and I think is interesting to keep in mind, is if we're talking about a big project, you're just not getting going on it. And a lot of this came out of, by the way, my work I used to do with students. Sometimes what's going on here is that your mind doesn't trust your plan. So I just want to throw that angle in there as well. One of the defining features of the human brain, one of the reasons that we can separate from other animals, is that the human brain can both conceive of plans, right? So abstractly conceive of a plan and then evaluate that plan. Is it good or bad? And if it's good, you feel motivation to do it. And if it's bad, you feel dismotivation, right? So this is very important. Again, if we go back to the Paleolithic, the emergence of the modern Homo sapiens, you might be thinking through like, well, maybe what I should do is charge this mammoth and whatever, jump on it and stab it through the eye to kill it. Well, the plan evaluation apparatus is like, no, that's a bad plan. You're not going to feel motivated for that. And then you have another idea like, well, maybe we should throw spears from far away, and you feel motivation to do it. Some procrastination is basically your brain rejecting your plan. And so I first saw this with students where they'd feel procrastination to study. And it's because it's just an incredibly vague thing. Their mind's like, I don't know how to evaluate this. Like, what do you mean by study? And a lot of really successful students I looked at for my books, they never used the word study. It was much more concrete. I'm going to take these chapters and we're going to do a quiz and recall here. And this works really well and it's going to prepare me well. If your mind trusts the plan you have, you're much less likely to feel dismotivated. This also comes up a lot, I think, when people take on ambitious projects, which I think is good. But if you haven't actually done the work of figuring out how that type of project actually unfolds, what's really needed to succeed, your brain knows, look, you don't have a plan here that I trust that's going to lead us to success. So no, I'm not going to give you motivation to do this. And it's why there's a lot of novels that last 3 chapters before people give up. It's because they got excited about the idea of writing a novel, but didn't actually do the work of figuring out what would it really take to break into the world of novel writing. They just want to do their 1,000 words in the morning and feel motivated and post it on Instagram. Their brain's not tricked. It's like, I don't see a plan here that makes sense. I'm not going to invest energy if I don't see a plan I trust. So I think that's a big part of it as well. Your brain is smarter than you think, which is sort of an ironic statement. If it doesn't really think you have a good plan that's going to achieve something worth achieving, you're not going to feel very motivated. That can feel a lot like procrastination.
If you was to deal with somebody who was an entrepreneur or businessman, what's the sort of brain hacks or things that you would work on, simple things that people can use straight away?
That's a great one. I'll give you a very specific answer. Diary. Of all the things, I would call it brain diary. So if there's a business woman who's seeing me right now and she wants one kind of concrete tip that could help her kind of be on top of her thing, here's the thing that I would say. Every person has a profile of thinking that is theirs. There isn't a correct one or incorrect one, but there is one that is yours. Maybe you, Jordan, are making decisions better in the morning and your wife makes better decisions in the evening. Maybe your best friend makes decisions better when they're hungry and your boss when he's full. One of you makes it better when you're surrounded by a ton of people giving you advice and there's a lot of noise. Another person, it's not that there's a correct answer. Decision should be made in the morning, alone, when you're full. There's no correct answer, but there is one for you. For every person, there is a profile, a set of kind of attributes that makes their choices best for them. Best means their outcomes are positive and they're happy with the choices they made. They don't go back after and say, oh, I should have done this. You like them. Maybe they're wrong, but you still say, this is what I would do if I were given the same opportunity tomorrow to do the same thing. Those are the ones we want to kind of amplify and nurture. So the thing is, everyone needs to learn their profile, know what it is. Neuroscientists would offer you one approach, which is to bring it to the lab, put something on your head or put you in a scanner and have you play all kinds of games and tests, and they will tell you. You seem to do better when the tasks are cognitive than emotional. You seem to do better when the tasks are real time versus given more time. They're going to tell you. And one approach is to have me or your local neuroscientist study your brain and give you the answer. Another approach is diary. You can get, I think, 80% of what you can get from a neuroscientist by just observing yourself. So here's what you do. You take a piece of paper or a little kind of notebook, and you live your life for the next week while monitoring it. What it means is when you're confronted with a choice, big one or small one, you pause for a second, you take note of the condition, and then you make the choice. For example, you're in a restaurant and they offer you the steak, salmon, or salad. You take a note. These are the options I was given, and here's what's happening. I'm stressed right now. It's morning. I'm hungry. I'm alone. You kind of take, and then you make a choice. You choose the salad, and then you write in your diary. These are the options I had. These are the conditions I was in. This is what I chose. And then you move on. And another choice comes, and maybe this one is, would I sell my company or not? A much bigger one than the steak salmon, but you still approach it the same way. Say, here's the option. Here's the advice I got from my finance person, from my best friend, and so on. Here's the choice I made. You just write the conditions, the options, decisions, and then you wait. At the end of the week, you go back to your diary, and you look one by one at choices, and you, from the perspective of time, evaluate them, and you give them a thumbs up, thumbs down. You say, salmon still would make the same choice, I'm happy with that. Merger of the company, probably not. And you kind of give them a score, I don't know, 1 to 10, or just plus or minus, or something that makes you look back at the choices. And then you do the last part. You can do it alone, you can do it with someone who you trust to be fair and objective. You look at what's common to all the choices that you were happy with, and what's common to all the choices you're not happy with. Maybe you're always with someone. We make not the same person even, but with someone. Maybe you're always hours before the deadline. Maybe it's always in the morning. You start learning what is your profile. When you do that, you will say, okay, I guess I didn't know, but I guess I'm a morning person. I think I'm tired in the morning, but I'm happy with the choice I made in the morning, and I didn't notice that. So from now on, I'll try to put myself more in the morning when I'm about to make choices that are critical. Maybe I realize that this person that I thought is actually not helpful for me is really helpful, because when he says something, I do the opposite. But I want to hear his opinion, so I can do the opposite. So I'm going to bring him to the room every time I make a choice, so I can see what he says and then go make the opposite. So it doesn't matter. Like, it's not that it tells you what choices to make are, but it tells you what conditions you want to put your brain in. So you're going to make choices that would align more with your outcomes that you like.
Love it. So is there any benefit in journaling in general, like just a general day-to-day journaling?
So generally, so I would say, and this is kind of my personal experience, and I think backed by a lot of kind of work in clinical psychology, writing down thoughts is helpful. The process of writing forces you to think it in different words. It slows down. It takes longer to write. So you actually have to pause and not just like, if someone tells you, if you were right now sitting in front of the bus station, waiting for the bus, bored, say, oh, I'm going to think of my life. Suddenly your entire life will flash in like I say, okay, I did it, I'm done. But if you had to tell someone about your life, 20 minutes will pass easily, because it's the same thought. You have all your life, but saying it in words requires a narrative. It requires A, B, C, and arc. It requires seeing it from the perspective of someone else and like finding ways to translate it. All of those things happen when you require writing or telling of a story. And that is why a lot of therapy requires not just you sitting by yourself and thinking about something, but having someone else that maybe says very little, but you talk at them, and you have to build it in a way that will be meaningful for others. So writing, journaling, talking to others, all of those things, they help the brain see the same story in a different light.
There's only two states of emotion: powerful states and primal states. The parasympathetic nervous system is active and the sympathetic nervous system is active. And the name of the game is to be in parasympathetic more, to be in a powerful state. And so we said, okay, got it. So what causes me to move into a primal state? Stress, anxiety, overwhelm, anger, jealousy. And what we see is that it's not the experiences of your life, it's the meaning that you're given. So that's kind of step 2. Take responsibility that you are the architect of your own emotional experience, and that the only thing causing your emotions is the meaning that you're giving, whatever you're experiencing. What we also found was not only is the only cause of all of your personal suffering your own thinking, but that the quality of the thinking is that it's 100% of the time untrue. So your nervous system is designed to move you into a primal state, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, when you're entangling with thoughts or ideas that aren't in alignment with the resonance of reality. Reality has a resonance. The Hindus might describe it as the Om resonance. Christians might describe it as the Amen resonance. Sacred geometrists, right, describe sort of the mathematical structure of reality. Oftentimes it's described as love. And the truth is that reality is a superorganism. We're just part of it. And so all of life is a superorganism that's connected. And we like to just call it intelligence. Some people call it God or Allah or Jesus. We just look at it as the superorganism of intelligence. It includes the cosmos. It is the cosmos. And it's intelligent at a macroscopic level, right? The perfectly orbiting constellations that don't crash into each other. It's observable on a planetary level, that perfect little thin blue line of oxygen and carbon dioxide and other elemental factors that allow life on this planet to exist. You can see it if you just watch the Our Planet documentary by David Attenborough and you look at the incredible intelligence of how the entire world's ecosystems operate together. And then we can see it within our own bodies in the miracle of the fact that you can cut your skin and within a couple of days it grows back, that you don't have to beat your own heart, that you don't have to pump your own blood. Intelligence is everywhere, it's all that is. And so there are laws that govern this intelligence. And one of the fundamental laws is that it is working in infinitely intelligent and expansive ways for your greatest growth, your greatest prosperity, and your greatest evolution. Always. Always, in every moment. So when something doesn't go the way that you expect it to, you move into a primal state because you misunderstand that it's going exactly the way it should be. And so this is another way of describing acceptance and surrender to life. But how can you accept and surrender to life if you doubt that life is working for you? So when you begin to entertain notions that life is not working for you, it creates dissonant energy in your body. It's not in alignment with the energy of reality itself. Think of it as a plus and a minus. The beautiful infinite intelligence of life that's always working for you in every experience you have, even when your girlfriend breaks up with you, and even when you lose your job, and even when you lose a loved one, and even when you have a diagnosis of a disease, and when things are not going the way that you expect it to. Life is actually always working for you. That's a positive energy. But when you have this idea that it should be other than what it is, and that life is somehow a problem, that's a negative energy. And you experience that dissonance in your nervous system as a primal state. So my practice is to notice when I move into a primal state, because I know that one thing is happening, and that is I'm thinking something that's not true. So that is sort of the 50% of the work of meeting your thought within a container of what's really true. Because now I get to look at that thought and go, you know, she shouldn't have said that. That's making me angry. Now, if she shouldn't have said that is moving me into a primal state, then I know that it's not true. And I can begin to question it. And if it's not true, some form of the opposite must be true. So I go, wait a minute. She should have said that to me? Yeah, I guess she should have said that to me. Why? Oh, because she was triggered. Because she's had her own experiences in her own life that have caused her to interpret this interaction we're having as threatening. She's having a rough day. Her cup is full. Of course she should have said what she said to me. I don't have to agree with it, but just notice how the emotional tone changes now. Now I'm compassionate. Now I'm empathetic. And that's naturally there when you're aligned with reality itself. And so the biggest problem that we have as people is that we deny what it is, right? We think life should be going other than the way it is because we don't fully buy into the idea that life is working for us in every single experience. But what's so fascinating about it is if we look back on the challenges and tragedies of our life, we're all able to see that they were actually the pathway to some of the things that we cherish most in our lives and the greatest attributes that we're proud of in ourselves. So we become impatient in our evaluation of the present moment. So in order to create real change, you have to have a philosophy that is sort of the container of this conversation. That's why Einstein said the most important decision you make is whether you live in a friendly or hostile universe. We should listen to some of the greatest thinkers of all time. The most important decision you make is whether you live in a friendly or hostile universe. The most important decision you can make is whether life is working for you moment by moment for your greatest growth, your greatest prosperity, your greatest evolution, or not. Because now you have a philosophy that you can operate in and a tool set. Oh, I have only 2 states of being. The only cause of me moving into a primal state is my own thinking. The quality of the thinking that moves me into primal state is dissonant thinking. It's not true. It's not aligned with what's really happening here. Now I can start to question that and say, well, if that's not true, then some form of the opposite must be true. And now I can begin to explore new possibilities. And the moment you actually see one of those new possibilities that will feel better, it'll align you with a powerful state. It'll be more congruent with the outcomes you're trying to produce. The moment you actually see that, what you also see simultaneously is that what I was thinking before makes no sense. And that's transformation. The moment you can see your unintelligent thinking is unintelligent, you can't unsee it. And so what I found was that was the fastest way to producing more permanent change in the way that I was experiencing life. Because I was going to personal development events and jumping up and down for 3 days and feeling really, really excited and open to a whole new possibility of life or my business or my health or my relationships. And then I'd go home and 2 days later, I'd have a personal development hangover. I felt even worse than I did before. And the truth was, yeah, because I went home with the same brain. But your brain is looking for efficiency. So if you can actually experience that your limiting belief makes no sense, it blows those neural networks out pretty quickly. The brain goes, there's really no need for us to go back to that as frequently. Now, again, it's a practice because you'll go out, you'll get triggered by the same thing, but now you've actually seen the thinking is unintelligent. Now you've actually seen the new decision or the truth or the interpretation that you've created, and this becomes the daily practice. This is the mind hack.
Guys, we have so much potential left on the table if we are not using our brain to its full capability. So many people are not looking at ways we can alter the way in which we use our brain. So many people are used to just sticking to what we know. So from these people, if something has inspired you, go look at that person, go look at the books that they've wrote, go look at their body of work, and start to dive deeper into those things that you feel connected with you within this video. Today's video is sponsored by audible.com. So if there is an author from this or a neuroscientist from this or somebody in the brain space from this video that you enjoyed, their book is linked down below. You'll be able to get a free copy of their book with the Audible link down below, a free audiobook, which I own quite a few of these people's audiobooks linked down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Head over to mulligan to help support us some more. Click the join button if you want to help support us. That allows us to fly around the world to film these pieces of content for you. Follow me on Instagram at Jordan Mulligan Brother. Yeah, if you've got any tips down below, comment them about how you feel you could use your brain differently. Any tips or tricks that you guys have as well. Inspire change, guys. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.